There's a date that matters more than most people realize when it comes to understanding why what is happening in Britain right now is so significant. That date is the 1st of June, because the 1st of June is the official start of the UK Health Security Agency's heat health alerting season. It is the date from which the UKHSA and the Met Office begin monitoring temperatures and issuing warnings to the NHS, to social care services, to emergency responders, and to the public about the risks of heat. The season runs from June the 1st through to September the 30th. That 4-month window exists because it reflects, or rather reflected, the period when Britain's climate could realistically produce the kind of heat that harms and kills people. Outside of that window, alerts are only issued under one specific condition. That condition is described in the UKHSA's own documentation as an extraordinary event occurring outside the core period. On Friday, the 22nd of May 2026, that extraordinary event happened. An amber heat health alert was issued for 5 regions of England, 10 days before the alerting season was due to begin. Not a yellow alert, not a monitoring notice, an amber alert, the second highest level in the entire system, covering London, the South East, the East of England, the East Midlands, and the West Midlands simultaneously in the last week of May. This is the earliest amber heat health alert ever issued in the history of the system. And it is pointing toward a bank holiday Monday that could rewrite over a century of British temperature records. To understand why the date of an alert matters as much as the alert itself, you need to understand what the UKHSA's heat health alerting system was designed to do and when it was designed to do it. The system was introduced in June 2023, replacing an older heatwave plan framework that had been operating since the early 2000s. It was built on decades of evidence about how heat affects human health in the British context. The core alerting season was set as June through September, because that is the period when British summers have historically been capable of sustained dangerous heat. May in the UK has a mean average daily maximum temperature across England of roughly 17 degrees Celsius. May is spring. May is the month of the Chelsea Flower Show, of bank holiday barbecues that get rained off, of jackets that people carry just in case. May has never required an amber heat health alert. Until now. The UKHSA used the word extraordinary in its own communications when describing the issuance of these alerts in May 2026. That is not language produced for public consumption. That is the agency's own characterization of an event outside its expected operational parameters. When the institution responsible for protecting the health of the entire population of England calls a weather event extraordinary in May, you are not dealing with a notable warm spell. You are dealing with something that has no direct historical precedent within the system, designed to manage exactly this kind of risk. Now let us look at the actual temperatures that produced this extraordinary alert, because the numbers are themselves a study in escalation. The week of the 19th of May 2026 started cool. By Wednesday the 21st, a warming trend had begun building from the south. By Thursday, temperatures in parts of southern England were already running several degrees above the May average. Then Friday the 22nd arrived, and Heathrow Airport, Cambridge, and Cranwell in Lincolnshire all recorded 28.4 degrees Celsius, the hottest day of the year up to that point. That single reading, 28.4 degrees on the 22nd of May, was the trigger point. The Amber Alert was issued with effect from 2 p.m. on Friday and locked in through to 5 p.m. on Wednesday, the 27th of May. 5 full days, covering the entire bank holiday weekend. And the forecast was not suggesting things would stabilize. It was saying they would continue to climb. Saturday the 24th pushed further still. 30 degrees Celsius was recorded across southern England, and the Met Office confirmed it officially as the hottest day of 2026 so far. Sunday was tracking toward 31 or 32 degrees. And then came the forecast for Monday the 26th of May, Bank Holiday Monday, the day that has concentrated the attention of every forecaster, every climate scientist, and every public health official watching this event. The Met Office's Deputy Chief Forecaster, Steve Coker, said it plainly and on the record. He said temperatures will climb through the weekend, especially in the south, where 30 degrees is likely on Saturday and 32 degrees on Sunday. He then said temperatures are forecast to peak on Monday, when 33 degrees could be recorded in southern England and the Midlands. And then he said the sentence that puts all of this into historical context. He said it is likely that the May and spring UK temperature records will be broken over the bank holiday weekend, with forecast temperatures surpassing the existing record of 32.8 degrees. The Met Office Deputy Chief Forecaster did not say the record might be broken. He said it is likely to be broken. That record, 32.8 degrees Celsius, has stood for over a century. It was first recorded on the 22nd of May 1922 at Camden Square in North London, on the very same day of the month 104 years ago. It was then equaled on the 29th of May 1944, in Horsham, in West Sussex, in Tunbridge Wells, in Kent, and in Regent's Park in London, just days before the D-Day landings at Normandy. 82 years after 1944, that record was held. Through every summer, through every warm spell, through every heat wave the British climate produced across more than 8 decades, May never again reached 32.8 degrees. And now, in May 2026, the Met Office is saying it is likely to fall. Some forecast models have placed the potential peak temperature on Monday at 33 degrees and Tuesday at 35 degrees, which would not just break the record, but shatter it by a margin that has no precedent in British May meteorology. The mechanism producing these temperatures is specific and well understood by the Met Office, and they have been transparent about explaining it. The primary driver is not warm air being blown indirectly from Spain or North Africa, though southerly winds are contributing. The main driver is the development of a powerful, slow-moving area of high pressure over and close to the UK. When high pressure builds and strengthens over a landmass, it causes the air above to sink downward. As that air descends from higher in the atmosphere toward the surface, it is compressed. Compressed air warms up. This process, called adiabatic compression by meteorologists, can significantly raise surface temperatures even when the original air mass is not particularly warm. Add to that the clear skies that high pressure produces, which allow uninterrupted solar energy to heat the land surface continuously throughout the long, late May days, and you get an accumulating warmth that builds day after day. The jet stream, which normally acts as the boundary between cold northern air and warm southern air, has shifted well to the north of the UK, leaving Britain in the warm sector with no incoming cold front to break the sequence. This is the atmospheric configuration that has delivered 30 degrees in May 2026, and according to the forecast, it is not finished. The heatwave threshold in the UK varies by region, but for most of London and the home counties, the official definition requires at least 3 consecutive days with maximum temperatures at or above 28 degrees Celsius. For most northern and northwestern parts of England, the threshold is 25 degrees. For parts of the southeast and east of England, the threshold is between 26 and 28 degrees, depending on the specific county. Based on the temperature sequence running from Friday through Sunday and into Monday, the Met Office indicated on Monday the 25th of May that heatwave conditions were expected to be formally declared for a number of regions including London and the southeast, as well as Cardiff in Wales. The first official heatwave of 2026 declared before the summer has even begun, and the UKHSA's forecast models placed a 50% probability on temperatures reaching 35 degrees on Tuesday the 27th, a figure that would not only break the May record, but would rival the highest temperatures ever recorded in a British June and approach the lower range of what the UK saw in its catastrophic heat waves of 2022. The last point needs context because the July 2022 heat wave is the most dramatic reference point in recent British climate history. On the 19th of July 2022, temperatures in Coningsby, Lincolnshire reached 40.3 degrees Celsius, the highest temperature ever recorded anywhere in the United Kingdom. The UKHSA issued a level 4 alert, the national emergency level, which states that illness and death may occur among the fit and healthy and not just in high-risk groups. The Met Office issued its first ever red extreme heat warning, covering a swathe from London up to Manchester and the Vale of York. The Cobra Emergency Committee met to coordinate the national response. The London Fire Brigade declared a major incident as blazes broke out across the capital. Train services were halted or severely restricted across entire regions. 40.3 degrees in July 2022 was the moment that proved, beyond any reasonable argument, that the British climate had entered genuinely dangerous new territory. We are not at 40 degrees in May 2026, but we are at 33 and rising, with 35 possible, and the Amber Alert is already in place, and the season that normally requires these alerts has not even officially started yet. This is the dimension of the story that the headline temperatures, dramatic as they are, do not fully capture on their own. It is not just that Britain is hot. It is that Britain is this hot, this early, with this level of official health system response mobilized, in a month that has never before required it. The 22nd of May, Amber Alert is not just a data point in the current heatwave. It is a calendar marker that rewrites the understood boundaries of when British heat becomes dangerous. If the heat health alerting system has to operate in May, then the assumption built into that system, that dangerous British heat is a June through September phenomenon, is no longer valid. The system was designed for a climate. That climate is changing, and the system is having to change with it. The data behind that change is overwhelming and consistent. The UK's 10 warmest years since records began in 1884 have all occurred in the last 20 years. The warmest year ever recorded was 2025, with a mean annual temperature of 10.09 degrees Celsius, beating the previous record set in 2022 by a margin that itself shattered the record set in 2023 just 2 years before. The summer of 2025 generated 4 separate officially declared heat waves between June and August. The mean summer temperature across that period was 16.10 degrees Celsius, the highest ever recorded, pushing the summer of 1976, the benchmark British heatwave summer for an entire generation, entirely out of the top 5 warmest summers on record. Spring 2025 was simultaneously the warmest and driest spring in over a century, with reservoir levels across Yorkshire, the southeast, and the Thames Valley dropping below 50% capacity. At least 12,454 grassland, woodland, and crop fires were recorded by English fire services in the spring of 2025 alone, the highest since comparable records began in 2011. These are not isolated anomalies, they are a connected pattern. And May 2026 is the next entry in that pattern, already remarkable before summer has arrived. Dr. Mark McCarthy, head of climate attribution at the Met Office, has consistently stated that the UK's accelerating temperature records are in line with the expected consequences of human-induced climate change. The Met Office has calculated that a UK summer as hot as 2025 or hotter is now 70 times more likely than it would have been in a pre-industrial climate. Back in 2023, after a September heat wave that itself required amber alerts, the Met Office said that extreme heat events are becoming more frequent and severe, and that by 2070, the chance of temperatures exceeding 30 degrees for 2 or more consecutive days across southern England will be 16 times more frequent than it was at the time of writing. That projection, which seemed striking when it was published, is already looking conservative given the pace of change in the actual temperature record since then. And climate scientist Amy Doherty at the Met Office produced the phrase that most cleanly captures what all of this data is pointing toward. She said that what was considered normal weather 10 or 20 years ago will become relatively cool in the future. She was not speaking loosely. She was projecting forward from the observed trajectory. A May in which 30 degrees is recorded, the earliest ever amber heat alert is issued, and a century-old temperature record is on the verge of falling is the kind of event that, if this trajectory continues, will eventually be unremarkable. That is not alarmism. That is the scientific projection embedded in the same institutions that have just issued an extraordinary amber alert for the 22nd of May 2026. What does this mean for the people living under that alert right now? The practical answer is the same as it always is during amber conditions. Stay out of direct sun between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. because that is when solar radiation and ambient temperature combine to their most dangerous effect. Keep rooms cool by drawing curtains and closing blinds on sun-facing windows throughout the day. Drink water consistently and frequently, not reactively, because thirst registers after the body has already begun to dehydrate. Avoid alcohol as a primary drink in hot conditions, because it accelerates fluid loss. Check in on elderly or unwell neighbors, particularly those living alone, because social isolation is one of the most significant factors in heat-related deaths going undetected until it is too late. If you are responsible for children, be aware that their heat regulation is considerably less efficient than that of adults. They will not always communicate distress clearly. Rail travelers across southern and central England should expect disruption and should check live service updates before traveling. Network Rail and Southern Rail both issued warnings specifically tied to the amber heat alert escalation, because British rail infrastructure was not designed for sustained temperatures above 30 degrees, and the risk of track expansion, speed restrictions, and cancellations is real and documented across every previous major UK heat event. The UKHSA will be monitoring conditions through the bank holiday weekend and into next week, and there remains the possibility of further escalation if temperatures on Monday and Tuesday perform at or above the upper end of the forecast range. A red heat health alert, the highest level, carries the definition of a significant risk to life even for healthy individuals, and a threat to critical infrastructure. It has only ever been issued once for heat, in July 2022, and it is not in place now. But the system that watches for it is active. The amber conditions that precede it are confirmed, and the temperatures that could theoretically push toward it are in the forecast window. The Met Office is not predicting a red alert for this event, but nobody watching the situation closely is treating the possibility as irrelevant. What the 22nd of May 2026 represents, stripped back to its historical meaning, is a shift in the baseline. The heat health alerting system was built around a climate that no longer exists in quite the way it did when the system was designed. The core season started on the 1st of June, because June was where the risk historically lived. May 2026 has moved that line, not hypothetically, not as a projection, but as a fact, confirmed by the UKHSA on its own official communications dashboard. The earliest amber heat health alert ever issued in Britain's recorded climate history is in place right now, backed by a May temperature record that the Met Office says is likely to fall inside the first heat wave of a year that has not yet reached its conventional summer. The historic warning has been issued. The records are under threat, and the 1st of June looks different from where we are standing now than it has ever looked before.